a scion of many worlds. Milady, milady, you must wake up. No day that starts with the servants in a panic is one to look forward to. That was something she had learned as child. Be it holy clerics of the Luxway or the filthy earth-born that carry out her chamber pot. If they're in a bad mood, it's a bad day. She'll have to have this one banished from the keep. Her voice is grating. What? What is it? She asks, rising from the silken sheets. The Urthani are a useless people, cowardly and craven, but the silk they spin is smooth and elegant beyond compare. The whole race does not deserve the very thing they create, but perversely, there's simply no point to enslaving or waging war upon them. Too delicate. A stressed Urthani cannot spin silk, and without the silk, an Urthani is just worthless. More so than even the lesser elements, for they at the very least hold the strength of elements. That and that alone is the only reason she chose to heed the advice of her council and not have every Urthani in the Miru borders executed for what that abomination had said to her. She was a generous queen, so generous it was nigh absurd at times. Milady, please, there's trouble afoot. Someone has usurped your name and used it to call the council. The throne lays in pieces and none can approach it. The serving girl says as she rises up, before the sun. The sun has yet to truly rise. This is completely unacceptable. Get out, she orders, and the simpering plebeian pauses. Out. Oh, of course, milady. I will abide in the... Out of the palace, you incompetent twit, and be thankful I'm not having you killed. Get out or face the burn of sacred light. She screams at the fool who rapidly runs out of the room. She pulls off her blindfold. The only thing even mildly useful in darkness is sleep. Already in a foul mood, she throws the blindfold with the twin sun decorations that are to go over her eyes to the side as she leaves the bed. Then her next challenge presents itself. Her personal servant was just banished from the palace. It takes a few minutes after shouting at the guards to have another servant sent up. She was contemplating proper execution when the shrinking fool of a water girl enters and with shivering fingers helps her dress. Thankfully, the girl is quiet and in appropriate levels of awe to serve her correctly. Shimmering white and yellow gown, jewelry enough to pay a noble house's ransom, and the holy crown of Miru upon her brow, she is the very image of royal authority and prestige as she strides into the throne room. As she should be, as she was raised to be. As the clerics of the Luxway taught her to be since the day she was brought forth from her divine mother to bless this sinful world with sacred light. As her mother was, and her mother's mother. The attempted rising of the filthy dark-born and the wretched northern peasants rebelling aside her family has ruled Miru through an age of flawless rule. I am here. What small absurdity is occurring? She announces as the doors to her throne room are opened. She pauses. Her throne. The glorious seat of power made of flawlessly varnished wood, glittering gold and inlaid with every known jewel upon the world, is broken. The armrests have been snapped off and the upper half of the backrest has been cracked and leans backwards instead of stretching upwards to frame the majesty of the Miru queen. What has happened to my throne? She demands in a fury. Milady, some force has activated the audience wards. The whole of Luxenor is seeing this. Her light-born general states, walking up to her as she rushes up to the throne, a symbol of her family's immense power, and she slams into something mere paces away from the throne. She staggers back and falls, her holy crown falling from her divine brow and bouncing upon the marble floors. It does not bounce twice and instead rises up as if gripped by something. Then it begins to shift in the air, twirling as if... A gigantic black spear appears in the air, twirling the crown around itself as she rises up to recover her dignity. Then the spear is joined by two others, followed by a fur-covered palm, an Orthani hand of unnatural size. The cloak of invisibility fades over the enormous figure sitting in her throne. So massive in size, the throne was cracked and broken to accommodate their impossible size. The figure is only an Orthani in the loosest description imaginable. Impossible size aside, the creature is dressed for war and regards her without fear. It cannot be an Orthani. This is not an Orthani. It is something else that is feigning at being an Orthani for some absurd reason. It is something she recognizes from mere days ago. "You!" she spits, and the not Orthani smiles. "Me," he replies. "I don't think we were properly introduced last time we spoke, child. I am dead, be smote," she decries before unleashing her holy power upon the impertinent vandal. The entire chamber is engulfed in sacred golden light, and she presses her power against the fool who dared to insult her. Then she allows the power to fade and turns around, not even deigning to look at the ashes she had reduced her foe to. "Get a servant to clean that up. I've already bathed today." The Orthani states behind her, and she turns to see the Titan unharmed by her barrage of holy energies, in spite of the sheer damage to the surrounding floor and the wall behind. "Care to try again?" The mockery is like a slap across the face. She flushes in rage and narrows her eyes before drawing on the power that is her birthright. Her sacred will bends and shatters the power of the world around her, and she focuses it clearly this time. This time she will burn clean through the fool's impertinent head. The beam of purest power lances out and crashes against the tip of the monster's antenna. The horror's antenna refuses to burn and parts her holy power like a blade parting flesh. She presses harder and harder, but the merest twitch of the creature's head adornment appears to be enough to throw back her sacred power. What manner of demon can do this? "Perhaps if your counsel assisted you," the Orthani asks, and is instantly bombarded by thin but immensely powerful beams of light from all in the chamber. "No, that's not quite enough, is it? You're all still just manipulating radiation wavelengths and intensities. Try something else." "Of what madness do you speak, monster?" Her general, Lady Bright, demands. "I speak of the very substance of light itself, you ignorant infant. Or do you not understand the very element that you trumpet as the grandest?" the Orthani demands. "Light is light, the very essence of divinity." Light is electromagnetic radiation, a fairly pure form of energy, yes, but there is purer. The Orthani states, and then reaches down with the right antenna to pluck the crown from their clawed hand. The holy crown of the Miru Empire slides down the antenna to rest, upside down, upon the head of the Orthani monster. "You dare!" "I dare," he replies before pausing. This is rather awkward, though. In all our belittling and insulting of one another, by word or action, we never actually introduced ourselves. "I am Jasper Emmanuel Skitterway Blue, at your service." "At my service? Is this your idea of serving?" "I am relieving you of the burden of command and the chains of leadership. A very generous service, if I do say so myself." The beast states with the Orthani trill an outright purr in their voice. "Though you have yet to give me your name, rather rude of you to refuse after being given mine. I have half a mind to take this up with the clerics who raised you. They've clearly failed to teach proper manners, especially when you're addressing your betters." "My betters?" "Oh, there is an echo in here." The statement is accompanied by an infuriating grin that sets her already burning blood to a purest boil. Don't laugh, for the love of God do not laugh, Jasper. Or if you do, at least make it an evil one." He had expected more of a fight, better resistance, but it appears that the higher-end light Erumenta hate getting their hands dirty. He's almost entirely focused on just dissipating the light harmlessly. If someone were to try and stab him, they'd make it much further. "What kind of monster are you?" the queen demands him, and he shrugs. "An undaunted one." He replies casually as he reaches up to adjust his new headwear. The supposed spikes on the thing are sun-patterned and thankfully blunt. It's a little uncomfortable, but not too bad, especially when he adjusts it to the side so it's nowhere near his eyes. What does that even mean? That I am a member of the Undaunted. He answers in a very unhelpful way. The beams of light start to taper off as many of the counselors either realize that they're going all of nowhere with their attempt or tire themselves out. It seems a fairly even split between the two, to be honest. There's a few more minutes with little Miss Empress switching around the light she's trying to blast him with to all sorts of different intensities to try and catch him off guard that he finally gets tired of waiting. Seeing as how no one here seems to have the mental faculties to ask the correct questions, I'll simply state that the Undaunted are coming. I'm a mere foot soldier to their number, although I will likely test fairly high after all this is over. "Be silent!" the Queen screams in fury, and he rolls his eyes as he shifts himself on the broken throne. Cushions. That's what he needs for the chair. "Child, it's been several minutes that you've bombarded me without end. If you had the capacity to harm me, I would have been wounded in the first few moments," Jasper says as he shifts again. "Goodness gracious, this chair is full of splinters." "That's because you broke it," the child screams at him, and he sighs before rising up. "Fine. You want to be a tantruming child? Let's treat you like a tantruming child." He snarls, suddenly vanishing to appear behind her and grab the child by the shoulder. He bends her over his knee and swats her on the rear. She screams in protest and he smacks her again. He counts to 10 as he smacks her, not too hard, but hard enough that even through the royal gown and whatever undergarments she has on, she's going to be feeling it. But he hasn't cut her. "Are you finished acting like a petulant brat? You can't do this. I'm the Holy Empress of Miru." She sobs at him through the tears and he rolls his eyes. "You were the Empress of Miru. But my army surrounds the city. I have your crown and throne. The sheer aggression with which you treat your neighbors divided your army to such a degree that there was not enough left to defend you here. The policies of how you treat your own people gave me that army from the people you've thrown away and betrayed for the sake of ego. I win." "What?" "To blood a force of night slayers your army." Jasper trails off as the general football tackles into his side and crumples to the floor. "You all right there?" "Ow. Not your best moment. Work on physically attacking in case you elemental tricks fail." He chides her as he stands up with the now former queen in his grip. "Anyways, to blood a force of night slayers your army, likely at the command of the idiot that ran into me, had hundreds of innocent women were pulled from their homes in the poorer districts of this very city, including a noblewoman that was from a family that fell out of favor to act as a leader of sorts. Lady Dusk. Don't mention that family around me." The Empress whimpers a little as he walks up to the throne and sits in it again, still holding the teenager out at arm's length. "I will mention them because I actually met them and like them. Have you met them? They're filthy dark. That's a no. You have no experience with them at all and you judge them as beneath you. That is not a good thing, child. Stop calling me child. I will continue to call you child because you are a child. You have not grown up in maturity since you were a very spoiled little girl and you have been taught all the wrong things in life. In all honesty, a newborn babe may be better educated than you, because for all the baby doesn't know, at least it doesn't hold false assumptions about nearly every aspect of existence. The clerics of Lux did you no favors in your education, nor your mother, nor grandmother, nor any of your ancestry. I am a girl like any other, just fortunate to be born to a high-ranking family. There is no sacred thing to a person's blood or ancestry. The only reason your line has prominence is a now atrophied skill for violence back in the days when might made all things right. Where are the guards? she demands, and he sighs. Now you ask for the guards? That should have been done the moment you bumped into me. They're busy. I'm fairly certain you ignore every other thing I say, so hopefully you will understand me this time when I say my army surrounds your city. We have many, many cannons pointed directly at your walls, just waiting to unload. Of course, they're watching us now. So the very moment that this ends poorly, the walls come down and hundreds die in moments. And I'm not talking about my own forces. They're just, the former queen begins, and Jasper roughly shakes her. Those in the position of leadership must be worthy to lead. I am here because you are not. You are not some goddess descended unto this world. There is no greater inherent value to one form of element over another. There is nothing to be gained in unending antagonism of others unless you are willing to commit, and being a belligerent ass to your major trading partners can only starve your people. There are many other mistakes you have made that I am aware of, but that is a nice little summation of your flaws. But you are not a goddess. You are a young woman, barely more than a girl at best, and I only mean that physically. You have been spoiled with the best of foods and unending praise until you've internalized and learned to believe all the pretty little lies that the preachers and the clerics have fed to you for their own gain. You're their puppet figurehead and you never even knew it. I'm no puppet. Yet you dance so well to their strings. They heap some empty praise upon you and you agree to whatever they want. If it turns out well, then they reap the rewards. If it turns out poorly, as things have today, then they shift all the blame onto you. Jasper explains before his unoccupied hand snaps out and catches a blade that crashes into view, followed by a light-based Arumenta holding it. I was wondering when your babysitting assassins would show up. What? The former queen asks as Jasper tosses back the assassin so hard they skid back into a distant wall and go still. Oh, come on, girl. Use your brain. I just told you that you were a puppet to the church. What do you do when a puppet gets unruly? He asks, before suddenly tossing her into his lap, and then a sword comes out and he slices through empty air. Two halves alight, Arumenta falls both to the floor and to visibility. Sister Glitter? The former queen asks in a heartbroken tone as Jasper flicks the blood off his sword and sheathes it. The confused and infuriated child turns around and grabs him around the neck with a scream. It does nothing to him but make noise. His massive claw falls upon her back and she crumples like a puppet with its strings cut. Foolish child. Perhaps just killing you would have been more merciful. There are many bombardments anew from the council, and this time they don't even reach him. It takes a lot more focus to form a force field that keeps out physical attacks and light-based attacks simultaneously. There is much work to do to remake the Age of Miracles. The belligerence of these fools is just one small issue. That none of them think to change the color of the light they try to bombard him with to pass through the force field is telling. Very telling indeed. You will cease your useless attacks or taste my steel. Jasper threatens and nothing occurs. The bombardment continues. Very well then. He rises up and carefully places the former queen to the side and draws his two swords, then rushes forwards, and 2 lives are lost in a heartbeat with a swing of each blade. The blades are thrown and 2 more lives are snuffed out and corpses pinned to the walls. Then he rushes towards the now very panicked remains with his claws alone.